Let's talk about some uses for your buttonhole stitch presser foot. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are talking about 3 uses for this presser foot. Now, this is normally used to make buttonhole stitches, but today we're going to show how you can use this with no button required, and the first is using it as a drawstring. So I have a video where I showed you how to make this little drawstring bag, but basically what you can do, instead of needing to put a button through these little stitches, these little openings we're going to create, you can actually use these so that you can get a cord or a drawstring to go through. So on your presser foot itself, you can see at the back that you have the spot where a normal button would go into, but instead of putting your button there, you're just going to open it slightly so that you have that space, and then you're going to have on the edges however large you want that opening to be. So I'm just going to be picking the stitch on my sewing machine and then going over and sewing it in place. So this is a really fun way to do this, and if you have a more manual sewing machine, you would just have to do those 3 stitches, but normally you can check on your sewing machine which type you have, and you can see here that I have the little stitch and then I can open it up, and once I have it all opened, it's then perfect to put cording through and to have that drawstring capability. So as you can see here, we're not adding any buttons, but instead just using it as a spot where we can have our cording go in and out and not have to worry about our fabric coming undone, looking a mess. It provides a really great option for drawstring bags. Now, option number 2 is very similar, but instead of using it for a drawstring or some sort of like tie, we're going to be using it for decoration. So what you could do is you could actually have multiple of those stitches all in a row, and you could make a really pretty little weaving in and out pattern with different ribbons, with different cording. So what we're going to be doing here is just opening this up so that for our presser foot, we are making this, maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, so you can see it there. And then I'm just going to be marking out how many I want. So on this green piece of fabric, I'm going to be marking out about 5 different spots where I want to add the stitch. And then that will allow me to weave in and out through my material with a really pretty ribbon. Now the key for this to work is you are going to want each of those stitches to be exactly in line, so making sure that they are lined up and that they are evenly spaced. If they're not evenly spaced, you probably will be able to tell because some will be bigger or smaller than the others, but as you can see, I have my 5 markings, and then I'll just go over to my sewing machine, so just exactly like we did last time. Put my stitch on. You can see from the back here that I have that little presser foot down, and then I have everything in place for the buttonhole stitch, and then I'm just going to be going through and adding the buttonhole itself. So again, this is going to give us a really pretty little stitch. I did this in blue just so it was a little easier to see, and then I'm just going to be repeating these for each of those stitches. So going through, sewing 5 different stitches, and then once all of them are done, you can then go through and open each of these up. So you would have 5 little openings that you can work with. Also, be sure to trim any threads that are around it, but I like to use a seam ripper. It's just a little easier for me. I do know there are specialty tools for this. And then once you have all of them opened, you can just take your ribbon and go through and weave this in and out to get a really pretty design. So there's lots of ways that you could use this decorative stitching. It could be done in clothes, it could be done in garments, it could just be done for home goods around your house, but a lot of different ways that you can use this, and it offers a really nice touch. You could just leave it as is if you want it to be flat, or you could actually sort of like cinch it up just so that you could have a really fun gathering effect too. You could also do this with more of like elasticy type material if that was something of interest. Now the third way we are going to be using this stitch today is as a hanger. So let's say I had a couple of these rags. I'm just going to go around and serge the edges so that they are nice and finished off. And then once I have that all done, I'm going to figure out which corner I want to use. So let's say I want to add a little spot up to this corner. Since I am using a towel-like material, I'm going to trim this down a little bit just so it's easier to work with. And as I'm going through, I'm just making it so that all of those little fuzzies are kind of gone, so it's much smoother. And then once I have all of them off, we're going to take this over to my sewing machine. So be sure that you have repeated that for both sides. And then I'm just going to go through the process of sewing the buttonhole. For this, you may need to help guide your machine a little bit more, just since it is a thicker material, but you can test that out. So here is what the stitch looks like. You can see it's on the front and the back and it looks nicely. So then I can just open this up and now you have a little opening that you can hang this on a command hook. You can hang it really wherever you need to so that it's very easy to get to. Let me know what you thought about these hacks for these stitches, if you've used any of them, and how else you may use this stitch. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching.